Brad Newberg of SB Nation Fantasy here, talking with Jordan Ranaan of Bleeding Green Nation, our Eagles blog, for our Fantasy Friday, where we ask a couple of quick hit questions, fantasy related, of one of our NFL bloggers. Now, Jordan, with the amount of times that Andy Reid likes to throw the ball, if Nick Foles ends up being the starting quarterback for the Eagles, is he a viable fantasy option if and when Reid goes to him?
It does seem inevitable that Nick Foles is going to be the Eagles starting quarterback before too long. A loss this week, I see it happening. But that doesn't mean that Nick Foles is a starter, a viable starter at least, for your fantasy. Maybe a fill-in starter. I mean, you got to think about it. Andrew Luck is barely a starter every week in fantasy football. He's the number one overall pick. They throw a ton of passes. They've thrown more passes than the Eagles even. Now, granted, he doesn't have the same talent that Nick Foles will be working with, but you're talking about a third-round guy here. Rookie quarterbacks, there's too many weeks where he's going to be putting up really low point totals. That is still a viable option with the Eagles, with Nick Foles if he's starting quarterback. If it was up to me, I would not have him as my viable every week starter in fantasy, no matter how much Andy Reid loves to throw the ball.
LeSean McCoy is averaging only 40 yards on the ground the past 3 games. If I'm not in a PPR league, is McCoy still a must-start running back 1?
LeSean McCoy, in my mind, is still an RB1 in fantasy football. I'll take my chances with him any day of the week. Look, the way the Eagles work, they like to run the ball late in games when they're actually winning. They haven't really been winning late in games this year. It's going to happen at some point. That's where McCoy's going to pick up his biggest yards. He already has 5 TDs. He's involved in the passing game. He's fifth in the NFL among running backs with 28 catches. Those are still pretty decent numbers. I would definitely take my shot with LeSean McCoy as an RB1. We saw what he did last year. He was if he wasn't the best, he was one of the best fantasy running backs. He's going to have his games this year, and they're going to come in the second half of the season. He's going to have some big games. I would definitely have no concern whatsoever to have LeSean McCoy as my number 1 running back. And we've seen the last few weeks, the Eagles have actually lined him up out wide as a wide receiver, a la sort of what they did with Brian Westbrook over the years. So I see them doing more of that with McCoy, him getting even more catches, more touches. I like LeSean McCoy a ton going forward.